And we're back on Second Street here today talking about the Chinese government interfering in our lives here in Canada. We just talked about the Chinese government harassing Canadians on Canadian soil. We're going to shift gears a bit and now talk about the story we keep hearing about in the news, which is the Chinese government trying to interfere with our elections. And here to talk with me about it is Dean Baxendale. He's the CEO of the China Democracy Fund. Dean, thank you for taking a few minutes to chat here. I wonder if you could just give us the quick briefing. What exactly is China doing to interfere in our elections?
Well, first of all, Colin, thank you for having me on today. This is a very complex subject and obviously has unfolded over the past 3 decades. Uh, as part of the United Front, the Chinese Communist Party's United Front Works Department, they have always had ambitions in which to influence governments, just as Americans, Indian diplomats, etc. All governments try to influence governments. But where the Chinese Communist Party has taken this further and using the United Front is to infiltrate networks politically and also working directly with organized crime to use money inside this country to influence politics. Now, this has been going on for 30 plus years, and this first came to the light of Canadians through Michelle Junot Katsuya's report, Sidewinder, which was eventually leaked to the press in around 2001 and 2, in which Michelle Junot Katsuya made the direct correlation between organized crime figures, the United Front, PLA, and trying to influence politicians. And they were at that time a little sloppy about it. Today, we've moved to a more sophisticated realm, as you know, by both the Globe and Mail and by Sam Cooper of the Bureau, who effectively, and the book that I published, Willful Blindness, is the reason why we're having the Hogue Commission right now. And this developed because the CSIS was noticing these influence operations in Toronto where money was passing, to politicians to attempt to influence and put politicians in place. And certainly, I think we're at a stage right now where we see the influence and directly coming out of the NISCOP report that clearly demonstrates that the Chinese Communist Party, the PRC, and the consulate in Toronto directly put a person of their choice into Don Valley North, and that being Han Dong. He was later elected to Parliament and remained so in the 2021 election. And so you have somebody who is clearly adjacent to Beijing and trying to, ultimately meet some of their objectives. He may well be doing some great things for Canada, but at the end of the day, I think you have to question his allegiances, alliance, and his dedication to Canada.
I want to ask you in a moment just how successful China would say that they have been. They may not disclose it, but do they feel like they've actually gotten the job done to interfere and get people elected? I want to talk about that in a moment, but what is the goal with trying to get people elected in Canada that are maybe more aligned to China's interests? Like, are there specific issues or things that they're trying to change in terms of policy that would benefit China, and that's why they're trying to get their people elected?
Colin, absolutely. The opportunity to influence political actions inside the country. Well, let's take your last segment specifically dealt with the issues around China diaspora community members, dissidents here in Canada. Let's talk about the Uyghurs, for instance. So if we're able to have ministers not talk about the Uyghur issue, downplay it inside Parliament, not speak to it publicly about the serious issues around the Uyghur genocide, and more importantly, in terms of today's situation, that of the slave labor, then you've influenced the government in China's favor and Beijing's favor to suppress any bad press about them. And they do this on a daily basis across the country and throughout all democracies. That's just one example.
Are
I can
there
give you
other
many more.
are there other examples? We got 50 seconds. Any other ways that they're trying to get their people into our democratic institutions to serve China's interests?
Well, I think we have to look at trade as being an important factor, and obviously Canada's vast resources. I mean, having influence over decisions that would allow raw resources to flow to China. For instance, as you know, the Canadian government, changed direction, by the way, with the urging of the United States on critical minerals. And now we're trying to divest China's interest in those specific companies. So that is part of the influence operations by China going on throughout the country.
Okay, we'll be back with more on this issue just after the break.